Good day and welcome to this special edition of Focus On. I'm your host, Zinathi Gquma. Now today we focus on the Road to Women in Infrastructure Summit 2021, a live 4-hour webinar hosted by CNBC Africa in association with the Development Bank of Southern Africa on the 24th of August. I'm joined by Zodwa Mbele, Group Executive of Transacting at Development Bank Southern Africa, to explore women, youth and people living with disabilities accessibility in the infrastructure industry. Thank you so much for your time, Zodwa. So we're talking about inclusion and accessibility in the infrastructure industry in South Africa. And I just want to know, when we talk about inclusion in the sector, what does the end goal look like and where does South Africa stand in that progress?
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come and talk to you. And I know that the topic is so befitting given that it's August, but I'm sure we will continue to have these discussions irrespective of August being known as a Women's Month. But anyway, so just getting back to, our mandate as a bank, we are involved in the financing of the development of infrastructure that is meant to improve the quality of life of the people, but also to stimulate the economic growth. Now, so when we talk about the quality of life of the people, that obviously will include so many stakeholders involved, marginalized stakeholders, some of them would be women. So when we talk about inclusivity, it's at various value chain levels of the infrastructure development. So as a bank, we look at the ownership level, where we say how much, where the opportunities for women to be funded in certain sectors, and we also provide that kind of funding as a bank. Now, we know that by its nature, infrastructure is very daunting because you're talking large-scale infrastructure. If you're talking large-scale for economic development, you're referring to water projects, to telecoms, energy projects. But I must say that even though it's daunting from the capex size point of view, we have seen some inroads, especially with the renewable energy sector, especially round 5, the recent round. We've seen that the government has made inroads in prescribing the minimum women participation in those projects. And therefore, as a bank, we are keen to finance the women participation in infrastructure that is related to the renewable energy sector. And but also having said that, so apart from that renewable, if you just look at any other project that we appraise as a bank, not necessarily at the shareholding level, but the part of the appraisal of the social assessment, we look at who are the parties who are meant or who are likely to be affected adversely as well by the project and also positively by the project. And you find that women feature a lot in that, in that scale. And we also involve them. So they are not necessarily if it's a generic project, it's not going to be women only, but also it should be, people with disability. If you are talking about maybe the bus terminals, access points for those who may be abled differently, to what extent have they been considered through the consultation processes? To what extent have they provided input in the development of the project? Similarly, when you're talking about roads, how much is going to benefit women specifically? Maybe you find that in certain areas, there might be markets that are developed which are run by women-owned. So we do consider women ownership just at the different levels of the value chain of the infrastructure development, not only in the funding level, that is the shareholder part of it, but just the value chain, to what extent they benefit as well as a marginalized group.
And of course, there are many different divisions in the infrastructure sector. And I'm just interested in which of these areas is women participating lacking or where women participation is needed the most?
So what we have seen these days, as I said, by its nature, it's very large scale. And being large scale, it's not necessarily precluding women, but just even, entrepreneurs to venture into in the infrastructure landscape. But we have seen that in the education sector, for instance, there's plenty of opportunities for women, and we've seen some of them who are building student accommodation, for instance. So they play a critical role there. But in some cases, even a building like that for the student accommodation, there's opportunities on the operations and maintenance part of it, which is largely, like facility management, which largely gives rise to opportunities for women to participate in there, other than the build part of it, but also the operations and maintenance of that. We've also seen lately some of the projects in the private clinics, because the health sector is also opening up, other than to be led by the three major hospitals. We've seen private hospitals, and there's women who are participating at that level, at the shareholder level, where they are also looking to participate and assistance from DBSA to be funded in order to take up those positions. We've seen also at this level in the education sector, not only the accommodation part, but on the core business. One of the schools here in Johannesburg that we have provided funding, 50% of the ownership is led by women in that, not only on the shareholder level, but also at the management level of the school. Not at the teaching, I'm not talking that, but I'm just talking to the. So we do see, I mean, it's not yet, we are pleased to see the progress. No, the progress is negligible, and there's sectors that women are not there yet. Telecommunications are not there. Telecommunications at the level of the telcos, we don't see women. Possibly we funded one project in the last couple of years, and those I'm talking the GSM market, telecommunication sector, not ICT, not information technology part. That I think there's women who are participating, and that's not really our focus as a bank. But I'm talking telco, very few of them. We've only done one project because the capex that is required, they're not only the capex outlay at the beginning of the project, but continuous capex outlay so that you improve the quality of the telco, the quality, the very competitive landscape. So it's kind of a cash-hungry business. You make a lot of money, but you also deployed a lot of cash on a continuous basis. So it's still lacking in a very big way.
And I mean, Zodwa, you say that we've made inroads in this progress to inclusion in terms of women, youth, and people living with disabilities. But at the same time, we are still not there. There are challenges. You mentioned in the telcos that the continuous capex that is needed. I'm just wondering in the challenges or the bottlenecks that still exist for women to occupy this space, seeing as we have not reached our targets yet.
So I think we are also doubting ourselves in the sense that, you look at, oh my gosh, the money that is required, it's so prohibitive. But not only at the capex level. Just to give you an example, if I were to put a bid for the renewable energy, possibly as a woman, what you need to do is to identify the land, but that's not the kind of information that you know. You're just thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to embark on a mega project like that? And it's true, it does require, because even at the project preparation level, if you are talking multi-billion rand of projects, even the preparatory work does cost quite a number of millions to put in. Now, we don't have that kind of money. So the thought of it just scares people. Whereas if we are giving information to women to empower themselves, to connect the right people, because you need to mobilize, not that men have got the money either, by the way, but at least there's an exposure, there's information sessions that is run on how do we, empower each other with knowledge, because that's what you also need, and the people who are land in South Africa, they are not people who are aware of how this land can be monetized in so many ways. And that's what we need to think about, just think outside the box. I know women who belong to certain associations are the ones who might have access to information, but even then, some of them, they find it is so daunting. Infrastructure, because not been something that has been pursued by women largely. It's associated so much with engineering. People who are even getting closer to know what is happening are those who are in the, built environment. Get to understand, there's opportunities in the renewable space other than the built part. How can I be a participant at the shareholding level? So it's just also just the nature of the infrastructure itself. It's not something that is open because it's not so direct servicing people like that. It's at a whole level as opposed to be at a retail business, if you understand what I'm getting at. So lack of information sharing is very important, to be debunked, because it is doable provided people are equipped with the right information and where to from there.
And just lastly, Zodwa, I mean, what kind of incentives or policy action is needed here for increased participation of women, youth and people living with disabilities? And how can DBSA come into that role?
So in most cases, because it's also sector-led, for them, so the example that I was giving you on the renewable energy, the example that I was giving you on the, clinics, we know where there's licenses that are being given to private players in order to open the landscape within the health sector, for instance. I mean, private health sector in particular, where you have major players. So you see that it's led so much from the sector perspective. Only that we also get to know about that when we have people who are knocking at our doors, because ours is to provide funding. It's very difficult, and we just need to be pragmatic about it to know what is happening in each and every sector. We do have specialists in our bank who would know exactly what is happening at sector level, of what the ICT white paper, where the opportunities. But where there's forums, to talk about, such opportunities, largely it's led by the department, because even if we know about it, we are not the subject matter experts, to recruit people, go there, there's opportunities. But yes, once we renewables, we speak with confidence, because we've been at the funding projects from round 1 to round 5. So as a DPA, we know what is happening there. But in some cases, we have a good idea, but not the subject matter expertise that we can just be so, eloquent in recruiting and directing people. But we're happy to share information where it's possible. But we do our bit as well in advertising our product, where we're talking about project preparation, because the project preparation is what most people don't know about. That's the financial product. If you have one just particular resource, if you have resources like people who've gotten the license, but they don't have the money to pursue the build part of the infrastructure for the clinic, for instance, they can come to us, direct them. There's money that is available for the feasibility studies, to the right other sponsors or big players who have been involved. So that information we can share, as and when people have got opportunities. But it's very difficult to direct people, because you need to also have some skill of some sort. The fact that you are aware is opportunities in the health sector, it means you are a skilled health sector type of a person. So you would know what is cooking in your industry. All you're looking for is to be assisted on how to take the process forward, because definitely most of the bottlenecks, it's at the risk capital level. Where to now? Because I have, but I can't pursue it further. It's a lot of money required. That's where we play a major role through the project preparation facility that I'm talking about, and bringing in the right stakeholders as well, or directing you, because we also don't want to bring in stakeholders on your project, because tomorrow you'll turn around that we force you into a marriage with people that it didn't work out. But at least you would have guided you that these are the type of people you can talk to. Obviously, you can parade them and choose the best, so that you bring something that is potentially bankable for us to look into. And then we can do the proper feasibility study to a bankability phase. Thereafter, we can take it from there for bankability, for funding.
Well, thank you very much, Zodwa, just talking to us about the Development Bank of Southern Africa's role in inclusivity in the infrastructure sector. Thank you very much for your insight. That was Zodwa Mbele, Group Executive of Transacting at Development Bank of Southern Africa. Remember to join us for the first virtual Women in Infrastructure Summit 2021 on the 24th of August from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. Central African Time. You can register free of charge on the hopin.com platform under Women in Infrastructure Summit. From me, Zinathi Gquma, it's goodbye for now.